Quick disclaimer, I do not own any of these images, and all images belong to their respective owners. Welcome to Zerift's Homebrew Journal, Episode 1, D&D Homebrew Journal. And today we're going to talk about my first session of my vlog of my first session of my D&D campaign, Homebrew campaign. So this is a continent where it takes place on. It is a chosen D&D setting campaign. One of the chosen D&D campaign settings, and that one is Dragonlance. Anyways, it takes place on this continent called Hansalon, and my campaign story takes place hundreds and thousands of years after the War of the Lance. So dragons have not been seen in a long time. Death Knights and Draconians have not been seen. So they've all Griffins and so forth have all passed to legends and tales that people tell their children to behave or to inspire them for virtue. Though magic is very much alive, the 4 of the 5 towers have been restored. Uh, so and this continent, Ansalon, is very big and so forth. And the story starts with a famed treasure hunter, a known treasure hunter, known as Mr. Twinkleton. And he goes out his way to help other people, and each in a unique way. And each of these people he's helped in a unique way is one of the players. So, and this is how this player group meet. They are united by this one man for a single cause and a single goal. Now this time he is going to a sacred place of sacred treasure. A secret treasure. He's not letting anyone know that he's seeking something. He seems urgently to get. Now he tells the players that he must get this treasure. Anything extra treasure he finds is for the players. So while we're talking about the players, let's meet them, shall we? I don't remember their names, so that's my fault. First up is a paladin of real quick, let's look it up. Of Mishikal. Paladin of Mishikal. His relationship with a human paladin of Mishikal. His relationship with Mr. Twinkleton is then that he once thought as a great warrior he thought he can challenge and fight a great necromancer. He was sourly defeated by him and his undead hordes, and his unconscious body was taken away and saved by a gnome we know it as now Mr. Twinkleton. After experience, he was humbled and sought out a new faith of Michikal. So he's now a paladin of righteousness. So that's my human paladin, and let's go over to the other players. There's 6 total. Next is a human barbarian from an unknown jungle island. His clan and tribe was slaughtered by a group of ogre pirates, and he traveled a long ways to the land to seek revenge. Not knowing anyone or how to speak their native tongue, he was found by a man, the first man he met, a Mr. Twinkleton, who taught him to read, write in our language, and was very kind to him, and he considers him a friend. Next up, now keep in mind, I did take a few liberties with this setting, and I did update it to 5e. So this is a 5e Dragonlance campaign, and I did take a few liberties with the races and so forth, like as in for this next one, a Fire Ganassi. Now they're native to Greyhawk, I know, but theoretically, they are people whose ancestors have touched the elemental planes. There are elemental planes in Dragonlance, so theoretically one could exist. So I allowed it. This is a Fire Ganassi wizard. Yeah, and you also have to keep in mind the ultimate goal of these games is for the players to have fun. And so if a player wants to play a Fire Ganassi wizard and it works theoretically, who am I to judge? All for fun. So he plays a she is a Fire Ganassi wizard, and she was shunned by her people and so forth, and shunned by everyone around her for her odd look and so forth, and inspired to be a wizard anyway because she found solace in books and so forth. It's shunned by everyone but one, Mr. Twinkleton. And that's how he knows Mr. She knows Twister, Mr. Twinkleton, and so yeah. So the next one was a bit half and half. One half liberty, few liberties, half uh, a Dragonlance campaign setting. Next is an Urda. Now, those of you who don't know, Urda are it's a unique race native to Dragonlance. Not gonna get too much into it. I did update its racial traits for 5e, so it was uh, so this was interesting. They wanted to do a class from the Unearthed Arcana from D&D, so I allowed it. Except I couldn't allow the name because there's already a class existing within Dragonlance called Mystic. So I called it Psionic. Which, to be fair, it makes more sense. Those you don't know, a Psionic is basically a person that uh, moves things with their mind. So it's going to be an Urda Psionic who uses things as mind. This character was saved from a stampede of animals by Mr. Twinkleton and was grateful ever since. So it's so it's an interesting character choice, in my opinion. So I look forward to seeing them in all the classes and how these characters develop. But next one is perhaps the funniest of the. Next up is perhaps the funniest of the character choice, character stories. Now this one's name I do remember somewhat because it was just that silly, and I said I allow it for sake of for certain reasons, and that won't go into in this journal session. So this is Los Lucios Jones. He is a tavern brawler who came that nickname by wrestling a bunch of for money for a bunch of drunken patriots and compatriots and fights and tavern brawls, and if they have a wrestling ring where drunk men go to fight each other, you better believe you'll see this barbarian there. It's a human barbarian. So uh, has a tavern brawler feat. So fights, brawls. He smacks things. He doesn't use much weapons that often. When he does use the weapons, his improvised weapon from his shield, smashes things in the face with it, and uses his arm to grapple and hold and pin people, his enemies down, and bash them with his shield. So it's pretty cool. He's got an interesting story. He knows Mr. Twinkleton because he was saved from the hangman's noose from some unknown crime. So ever since then, he's owed a life debt to Mr. Twinkleton. The next up is the nephew of Mr. Twinkleton, who has the appearance of being a lazy bum, but is secretly a wizard that's self-training and so forth. So those are characters I. So because he was so thought of being so lazy, Mr. Twinkleton took his nephew along for the ride for the journey to help out, do things like put stuff in the car, carry it, and so forth. So this is an interesting crew of adventurers. I'm actually pretty excited for. Yeah, right. And the each character rides a cart and all the way to a town, a small town not unknown on any map. I called Haddale. So, and the players had a choice to go to the dungeon, to the cave of full of treasure, the cave of treasure, by with Mr. Twinkleton, or they can go around town exploring, doing other things like look for notice boards, uh, go out adventuring, go explore, do leave. They can leave them, but they all decided. The players decided to help out Mr. Twinkleton, saying they all each owe him one. And they enter the cave, which they find on the outside all these offerings, which makes them a little strange. And they enter this white marble room inside this cave when they all decide to go, filled with yellow torches lit with yellow fire, and it's these two huge brass bronze doors with these huge knockers on them. And this room is filled with white stone and white marble. And it's a bit ruined, it hasn't been visited lately. But they they enter this room and they decide to check for traps. First instinct, check for traps. Around the doors, no traps. They enter the next room, only to see that the wall behind them has shut, trapping them inside this cave in this dungeon. So either way, there's no way out but forward. So they enter the next room. And see, it is in the center of it is a statue of a knighting ceremony, of a man kneeling with a sword being by a knight being cast on two hands, and written on this statue, along with a bunch of offerings around it, uh, is a is the words "My honor is my life." Now they made a history check. My players made a history check. They found out that this is a reference to the Knights of Slomnia. They they have three orders of knights in order lowest to highest. You have the Knights of the Crown, Knights of the Sword, Knights of the Rose. And it's this faction of knights that guard the realm from evil. There's Sacred Order Knights, very high honor to join, so forth. It's just I have it work more as a faction than a class in this campaign to avoid too much complication. So uh, they uh, they look in the room. They see a hallway behind the statue. Now, in marching order, they go start with the paladin, then the barbarian, then the next barbarian, then Mr. Twinkleton's nephew in stealth, and right behind them, then the Urda, then the Flame Ganassi in the back. They go for his dungeon. As they're going through this hallway, the paladin steps on a trap, and it's a giant net, swoops up, grabs him, and with hanging on a rope, hanging in his air inside his net. Which, if you can't picture that, think Return of the Jedi when they all got in that net trap on Endor. So, uh, yeah. So they eventually come down, and the players are aware that there's traps in this dungeon. As they enter the hall, Mr. Twinkleton reveals what this place really is: a necropolis for the Night of the Sun, which was a statue of his knighting ceremony they saw in the back. Now, each room was with yellow flame torches. This room, the torches have blue flames on them. So there's three of them. As the party moves forward, they all had to make strength saving throws. And to find out they succeeded and were not grappled by the skeletons. So they fight the skeletons as they move each to fight these 9 skeletons, a set of them. Each paladin taking out 3 by himself. The other 3 go this way, 2 go this way, and then Matthew runs all the way the opposite direction, running away, going into stealth, screaming, "Ah!" They are a very silly group. So they go each direction, going 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 fighting and so forth. And they fight for a while until the paladin gets trapped in another net. But because there's a trap hidden on the battlefield, he has to struggle until he gets out, and he's getting well on by fighting these skeletons. And then as they fight, they eventually destroy some skeletons, only to see them rise back up. Now this confuses the players, except one player who's been noticing the torches, since seeing how I end every sentence with a torch, are blue, while the other rooms have been yellow flames. So there's these blue flames. And when he tells a party this, that there's something about it, the gnome who ran away came back and revealed to everyone who is a secret wizard, revealed that he's a wizard using his mage hand to get a bucket of water, dump it on the flame. The flame doesn't go out. He runs back screaming. Then another player grabs a torch and tries to step out the flame. The flame doesn't go out until he steps and cracks the torch, and 3 skeletons go down. And then the flame rises in the air, goes into the next room. And then the players know what to do. So the tavern brawler, using a weapon that he never uses, threw his axe and destroyed one of the torches. I think it was either the barbarian or the paladin destroyed the other one with their javelin. And then it was a wizard using an improvised spell to destroy the torch, and all the skeletons go down. They go to the gnome runs back. They know how to defeat them. They're ready to take on these skeletons. They have these mighty smirks on their face. They ready to go to the next room. They are afraid of those skeletons. I didn't see them with bows, ready to aim at them and ready to destroy. So they had a quick round to react. What did they do? The barbarian from the jungles threw his javelin at the one of the torches, only to have it stick in and not destroy it. In case you're wondering, there is a attack roll to hit these torches and destroy them. It's a 10 or higher, so go figure. Yes. So the tavern brawler comes with an improvised idea to toss the gnome over the torch and destroy it, pass over the enemies. This will require a great feat of strength. He tosses, fells his throw, makes it past the skeletons, only to land in a platform right in front of this torch, only to turn out to be a trap, and it's a pit. The gnome casts Featherfall, but he's still stuck down a pit. No spikes or anything, just stuck down a hole. He's been in a hole kind of his whole life. Anyways, so they have one player trapped in a hole, and pun not intended. And the other players have to fight them, and they eventually destroy the torches, destroy the skeletons, and then the room splits two ways. But they notice something strange this time. When the flames left the first room, they didn't go to the torches, land on the torches in this room. Instead, they went through the hallways, and there was already torches lit. And those flames came up and rose up and are following those flames in the hall. So there's 6 flames going down a hallway. And they find that this hallway splits into 2. So, being a lenient DM I am, I allowed my player to use Divine Sense, and he sensed undead both directions. But being the lenient DM, I had him be able to tell which the undead was benevolent and which one was malevolent. In simplified terms, which one's good, which one's evil. Good, bad. So they went to the room with the good, and they find a ghost who explains that something has happened to the Acropolis. It wasn't always filled with undead, and these poor souls are being forced to fight. So a great evil has somehow been transferred or found its way here by some unseen force. And they must, the ghost asks, this is a ghost in this room, asks that they please vanquish evil. In return, she will protect him and give him time for rest. So I gave him a long rest, and they took a long rest, only to realize they forgot about their companion in the hole. They forgot about the gnome in the hole. So they came back, went back in the room, grabbed the gnome, and took another long rest. So they entered the next room. Same situation, skeletons, they destroyed the torches. They beat it, and they got pretty handy at this. And the next room, they're marching, and they're ready. They're marching, they destroy the torches, and this time they see him go into this room. This large room. Now, in this large room, they find a statue. And around this statue are, let's see, 12 candles. Yeah. They find 12 candles. And 11 of them are lit by blue flames, and they see the final blue flame from the torch circle around the statue, slowly, making its way to the final candle. And this is where I had the players make a history check. And they learn of a legend of a figure that's spoken, known as the Knight of the Black Rose. Sort of a boogeyman tale that one of the players rolled, and they were told that if you go out at night, the Knight of the Black Rose will get you. If you misbehave, the Knight of the Black Rose will get you. Not much is known, except it was a fallen knight of Salamnia, former Knight of the Rose, hence Knight of the Black Rose. But one player rolled high. Found out this is a statue of a being known as Lord Soph. And he's not been heard from in centuries or millennia. Who knows how long it's been. And that they and that he was a knight that fell in love with an elf when he was married to another woman, left her for her, and he had to go on a redemption quest. And due to rumors of his new wife's infidelity, he immediately dropped the redemption quest, came home, slaughtered her and his newborn child. And thus he was cursed as a deaf knight to walk the earth. You can read about it in the monster manual under Deaf Knight, under what that little box says Lord Soph. So they know about him, and they know that then as they realize this, the final flame hits the candle, and all the flames burst into one, all surrounding the statue, and the statue wakes up. And in a weakened state, they find Lord Soph has awoken once again, after being seen or heard from for centuries and until millennia. Awakened in this weakened state, he points his sword and points at Mr. Twinkleton and says, "Hand over the gnome." Now this confuses the players and Mr. Twinkleton. They wonder how Mr. Twinkleton knows Lord Soph, since he's not been seen or heard from in centuries. He doesn't know either. It baffles him. How does he know his name? A lot of questions fill the players' heads. Is there some unseen hand at work here? Or some unseen force at play? No one knows. But they're not about ready to hand Mr. Twinkleton over. And then all the players had to make a saving throw. A wisdom saving throw. All of them but the Fire Ganassi wizard had failed. And they were petrified, frightened. And at the end of each of their turns, they had to make saving throws to break free of the being petrified of fear, being frightened. That's the right term, frightened. So they are now. Lord Soph takes this opportunity to fight the wizard, and the wizard, eventually the tavern brawler, the first to break free, gets struck by Lord Soph. And then eventually he goes to grapple Lord Soph and then bash him with his shield. Fails to grapple, but bashes him with his shield and knocks him down in a very angry state. While the others have eventually woken up, they're frightened except for the Sonic. Eventually get in a fight, and eventually both the wizards use Chill Touch to find necrotic damage doesn't do anything to him. And swinging his sword, he does massive damage to the paladin, and most of the characters get really hurt, beat up in this fight. And eventually, the Tavern Brawler begins to grapple him and then knock him down, grapple him and knock him down, grapple him and knock him down with his shield, grapple him with his arm, knock him down with his shield, and gain advantage enough for the barbarian and the barbarian and the paladin to do damage to him. And then, along with the Tavern Brawler, eventually it was ended by an improvised spell by the defeated by the improvised spell by the Fire Ganassi. And he was, as he begins to fade away in shadow, he swears that he will return again to get his vengeance. You can't, and swears they cannot protect that gnome forever. As he vanishes, the pedestal where his statue laid vanishes, and then there's a sort of clearness of mist and air, and is everything is all right again, and they everything is peaceful. Then where the pedestal was, there's a symbol of a sun, and then they notice what they didn't notice before. There's a statue of a knight hanging a sword out, like the statue they saw near the beginning, the front, and written on the statue is "What is my life?" is a question, and each player decides to repeat what the statue said in the position of the statue in front by kneeling and giving different answers. The gnome went first and said, "Knowledge is my life," and struck his hand on the sword and bled it. Nothing happened. Then the paladin pushed him aside and kneeled and said, "For what honor is my life?" He said, "For what honor is my life?" or something like that. He didn't say the exact words. And the Fire Ganassi gets up and kneels and goes, "For honesty in my life," and none of the players can figure it out. And then the gnome, Mr. Twinkleton, pushes them all aside and kneels and says the exact words, "My honor is my life," and the doors open. And they find a crypt of the Knight of the Sun. Now they find and what they find is a strange parchment, which Mr. Twinkleton was looking for. Now, only the good aligned can see a map on it, while the others cannot see a blank sheet of paper. And it appears to be a piece of a map, a set of maps. And they find some gold and a magic sword, and it was at +1 against all enemies and +3 against skeletons. So I call it the Sword of the Sun, not to be confused with the Sun Sword. Not the Sun Sword, Sword of the Sun. Completely different weapon. And so they argued to make it about who gets the sword, and the paladin settled on it, and yeah, that was the no, they find the exit and they leave out, and then the two wizards receive two letters. The Fire Ganassi received one in a white envelope, while the gnome received a letter in a black envelope. And they both received letters to go to a tower known as the Black Knife to take their tests to earn their initiate robes of the Wizards of High Sorcery. Seeing they're all level 2 now. So that is the end of the first session for reals. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'd like to give a quick shout. Thank you to all the YouTubers who helped me and gave me advice throughout helped me prep this homebrew campaign. It was a blast. The players had a blast, so on behalf of them, I would like to say, even though they don't say it, I imagine they will if they knew. They'll say, I like to say thank you. So, yeah, this is session one. This is, I hope this was an interesting session. So, I like to say a quick thank you. It was a blast, and a quick disclaimer again: I do not own any of these images; they belong to rightful owners. And yeah, that was it. And if anything I can learn from it was that if I take anything I can learn from this, I would, like my mother says, live and let learn. Uh, is that I really should have made this a number crunching adventure. Like crunch the numbers, get a certain experience, challenge rating, all that stuff, all that hubbub, and focus. Instead, I should focus on more on story and characters and monsters and what would be too much and would be fun for the players. So yeah, I think that's what I take away. So I'm gonna do milestone experience instead of just experience crunching. So that way I can do the adventures more fluently and more instead of focusing on how many rooms and how many monsters I should face. It'll just be whatever I want it to be and whatever so the players can have more fun. So yeah, and I like to say this is Zerift Gaming signing off. See you next time. Don't forget to leave a comment and follow me on Twitch. Okay. Bye.